The massive UES Thunderchild emerged from the jump point, its hull gleaming under the light of an unfamiliar star. On the command bridge, Captain Ji-Woo Park straightened her uniform and surveyed her crew. The bridge hummed with quiet tension as officers monitored their stations. This was humanity's first venture beyond the borders of their solar system, and every person aboard felt the weight of history on their shoulders. "Status report," Ji-Woo ordered, her voice steady despite the flutter of excitement in her chest. Lieutenant Han Kim, her tactical officer, looked up from his station. His fingers paused over the holographic display as new data streamed in. "Captain, we're being approached by multiple vessels of unknown configuration. They're hailing us." "Humanity's first contact," Ji-Woo whispered, allowing herself a brief moment of awe before snapping back to professional alertness. "Open the channel." The view screen flickered to life, revealing an alien with iridescent scales that shifted color as it moved. The being had large, multifaceted eyes and a mouth that seemed too wide for its narrow face. "I am Counselor Trell of the Galactic Council. Your presence here is unexpected." Ji-Woo stepped forward, chin lifted. "I am Captain Ji-Woo Park of the United Earth ship Thunderchild. We come in peace and friendship." Trell blinked, an odd sideways motion. "Your species was not predicted to achieve interstellar travel for at least another century. This is concerning." Ji-Woo exchanged quick glances with Han. Concerning wasn't the welcome they'd hoped for. "We invite you to dock at Central Station," Trell continued. "The Council will convene to discuss this development." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in silence. "That went well," Han muttered. Ji-Woo turned to her crew. "Prepare a diplomatic team. Security protocols remain at level 2. No one reveals ship specifications without direct clearance from me." Within hours, the Thunderchild was escorted to a massive space station unlike anything humans had ever built. It resembled a giant metal flower with petals that extended for kilometers, each housing different environments for various species. The human vessel looked tiny as it approached a docking port. Security Officer Tai-Ho Lee ran final checks on the diplomatic team's equipment. "Standard scanners only," he reminded them. "No weapons, but emergency beacons stay hidden in your uniform collars." Ji-Woo nodded approval. She had selected 5 crew members to accompany her. Han for tactical assessment, Sung Min-yoon for intelligence gathering, Science Officer Jun Seo-ba to evaluate alien technology, Medical Officer Yuna Kang to study xenobiology, and Communications Specialist Mai-Ray Huang to assist with any language barriers. The council chambers fell silent as Ji-Woo and her delegation entered. The room was enormous, with tiered seating arranged in a complete circle. Representatives of 27 species had gathered, each more alien than the last. Some floated in special tanks, others required breathing apparatus, and a few appeared almost human until you noticed subtle differences. "Humans," announced a tall, willowy alien with skin like polished wood. "We welcome you to galactic civilization." The words were friendly, but Ji-Woo noticed the tension in the room. Many representatives were whispering to each other or manipulating communication devices. Tai-Ho leaned close to Ji-Woo. "Captain, they're scanning our ship, far more intensively than would be standard for a diplomatic meeting." Ji-Woo maintained her diplomatic smile. "Noted. Stay alert." The wooden alien continued. "I am High Counselor Ilara. We have observed your planet for many cycles, waiting for your development to reach appropriate levels for contact." Ji-Woo stepped forward. "Then why were we never contacted? We've been sending signals into space for over a century." A ripple of discomfort moved through the assembly. "Your species required monitoring," Ilara said carefully. "Your tendency toward violence was concerning." Another counselor, a bulbous creature with multiple eyes, spoke up. "You advanced too quickly. Fusion power to FTL travel in less than a century. Impossible without outside influence." "We had no outside influence," Ji-Woo stated firmly. "Humanity achieved this through our own efforts. The council representatives spoke of peace and cooperation after that, offering limited information about galactic law and trade. But intelligence officer Sung Min-yoon, trained to read even human facial expressions, noticed their subtle expressions of contempt when discussing human achievements. Some species lacked recognizable faces, but their body language conveyed similar disdain. After the formal meeting, the humans were given quarters on the station, while arrangements were made for further discussions. Jiwoo knew they were being stalled. "They're afraid of us," Jung Seo observed as the team gathered in their assigned lounge, which they had swept for listening devices. "But why? We're just one planet." Yuna frowned. During my conversation with their medical officer, they seemed shocked by how quickly humans recover from injuries. They called us regenerative anomalies. "Their technology is advanced, but not impossibly beyond ours," Han added. "Their ships have better efficiency, but our weapons systems might actually be superior." Myrae looked up from her datapad. "I've been analyzing their language patterns. There are terms they use when discussing us that don't translate properly. Something like rapid evolvers or adaptation dangerous." "Captain," Sung Min said quietly, "I managed to access a public data terminal. Most species took thousands of years to develop the technologies we created in centuries. They think we're unnatural." Later, alone in her quarters, Jiwoo reviewed Sung Min's report with growing concern. He had risked using specialized hacking tools to penetrate deeper into the station's information network. The data was clear and frightening. Earth's solar system had been deliberately isolated by energy barriers disguised as natural phenomena. What humans had thought were simply hazardous regions of space were actually containment fields. Their quarantine had just been broken. Jiwoo stared at the distant stars visible through her viewport. Humanity had believed they were taking their first steps into a wider universe. Instead, they had broken out of a cage they never knew existed. She tapped her communicator. "Bridge, this is the captain. Begin quiet preparations for immediate departure. I want engines ready and all personnel recalled in 6 hours. We're not staying for their arrangements." Something in the council's eyes told Jiwoo they wouldn't be allowed to simply return home with knowledge of the galactic community. And if Earth had been quarantined once, it could happen again, more thoroughly this time. As she prepared a message for Earth, Jiwoo realized the Thunderchild's mission had changed. They weren't explorers anymore. They were escapees. The Thunderchild's engine room buzzed with activity as Chief Engineer Do-hyun Choi monitored the Council's inspection team. The aliens moved through the ship's power center with analytical precision, scanning equipment with handheld devices and speaking to each other in clicking languages that the translation software struggled to interpret. Do-hyun maintained a pleasant expression as he guided the 4-member inspection team through what appeared to be the ship's main propulsion systems. In reality, they were examining only the conventional drives, the backup systems that would engage if the Thunderchild's true engines ever failed. "Your propulsion system is adequate," noted the alien inspector, a tall being with 6 limbs and compound eyes that reflected light in rainbow patterns. "Primitive fusion containment, but surprisingly efficient for your technological level." "Thank you," Do-hyun replied with carefully measured humility. "We've worked hard to improve efficiency within our limited understanding of physics." The inspector missed the knowing glance exchanged between Do-hyun and his assistant, Yum-ho Ryu. Both engineers had spent years developing the concealment systems that now hid the ship's actual propulsion technology, the gravity manipulation drive that allowed the Thunderchild to bend space in ways the Council apparently believed impossible for humans. "These coolant systems, they're unusually redundant," observed another inspector, this one floating in a personal gravity field. "Safety precautions," Do-hyun explained. "Human ships operate with multiple backups. We've had accidents in our past." The floating inspector made a sound that might have been amusement. "Inefficient design. Resources wasted on unlikely scenarios." Young-ho bit his tongue. The redundant systems actually housed components of the ship's weapons grid, dispersed throughout the vessel to prevent single-point failures during combat. But the Council didn't need to know that. Meanwhile, in the central computing hub, Athena, the ship's AI, carefully presented a simplified interface to another group of visitors. The visitors tapped through basic command functions and diagnostic routines, while Athena's true capabilities remained hidden behind multiple security protocols. System response time, 300 milliseconds, noted a Council tech specialist with disappointment. Barely above mechanical computing. What the alien couldn't see was Athena processing at quantum speeds in hidden cores, analyzing every scanner the visitors carried, every question they asked, building profiles and threat assessments in microseconds. Athena had been instructed to appear primitive, a basic command system rather than the fully sentient intelligence that actually ran the ship. Our technology developed slowly but steadily, explained the computer technician assigned to guide them, keeping to the script Captain Ji-woo had established. In the science lab, Council representatives examined human technology with poorly concealed amusement. 3 different species clustered around displays showing Earth's current scientific understanding, medical capabilities, and weapons development. Your species has accomplished much, considering your isolation, one remarked to Science Officer Min Ji-kang. The alien had delicate features and moved with fluid grace, but its eyes held the cold calculation of a predator. "We're adaptable," Min-ji replied with a tight smile. She noticed how the visitors lingered over displays of human military history, particularly the rapid advancement from gunpowder to nuclear weapons. "Such aggression," murmured one Council member to another in what they thought was a private exchange. Typical of isolation-evolved species. Min-ji pretended not to hear, but made a mental note to report the comment. Throughout the day, similar inspections continued across the ship. Captain Ji-woo allowed access to most areas, but declared certain sections off-limits due to safety protocols. The Council representatives accepted this with obvious suspicion, but didn't press the issue. During a scheduled meal with Council diplomats, Ji-woo maintained pleasant conversation while gathering intelligence. The aliens seemed particularly interested in Earth's political structure. "Your planet unified recently," noted a diplomat. "Most species require centuries of centralized government before achieving space travel. Necessity drives innovation," Ji-woo replied. "Climate challenges forced cooperation." What she didn't mention was that Earth's unification had accelerated dramatically after detecting alien signals 30 years ago. Humanity had united not just from environmental necessity, but from the sudden, shocking realization they weren't alone in the universe. That evening, in her secure quarters, Captain Ji-woo received a classified data packet from Taiho. Her security officer had managed to place tiny surveillance devices on 2 Council representatives during a seemingly clumsy collision in a corridor. The security feeds captured something disturbing, Taiho explained as they watched the recording together. The image showed 2 Council members in private conversation, unaware they were being monitored. "The humans must be evaluated according to standard containment protocols," one was saying. "Their development curve matches the Zerillian pattern. We all remember how that ended." "Aggressive species management may be required," agreed the other. "Their biology shows concerning adaptation rates. The capacity for rapid evolution under stress is there, just like the others." Ji-woo watched the recording twice more, her expression growing darker each time. "They've done this before," she realized aloud. "They find species they consider threatening and eliminate them before they can expand." Taiho nodded grimly. "There was something else, Captain. I accessed their historical archives through a public terminal. Most information is restricted, but there are gaps. There are references to at least 17 species that were contained in the last millennium, some through direct action, others through engineered conflicts or resource manipulation." Ji-woo paced her quarters, mind racing. "The quarantine around our solar system wasn't to protect us while we developed. It was to keep us caged until they decided what to do with us." She stopped at the viewport, staring at the massive station that now held her ship. And we broke out too soon. We need to warn Earth, Taiho said. Jewu nodded, her decision made. Prepare a secure transmission. Encrypted with the quantum protocol. Use tight beam during our next scheduled maintenance window when our communications can't be easily monitored. Within the hour, a transmission was dispatched to Earth, hidden within what appeared to be routine telemetry data. Prepare defenses. First contact potentially hostile. Council history suggests systematic elimination of threatening species. Thunderchild preparing extraction. Possible pursued return. Authentication code. Park Alpha 7 Tango. As the message departed, Jiwoo gathered her senior officers in her quarters, using ATGNA to generate a sound field that would mask their conversation. We leave tomorrow, she told them. The moment our maintenance cycle gives us enough power to jump. But we need to gather as much intelligence as possible before we go. The Council has requested engine schematics, Do-hyun reminded her. They're growing impatient with our delays. Give them schematics, Jiwoo ordered. The fake ones we prepared. Keep them busy analyzing outdated technology while we prepare to run. Outside the station, Council warships had begun to gather. The Thunderchild sensors detected increased military activity with each passing hour. Time was running out. If they're truly afraid of us, Jiwoo said quietly, then they have no idea what humans are capable of when truly threatened. The Thunderchild disengaged from the docking clamps with deliberate care. Captain Jiwoo had ordered a standard departure protocol, nothing that would alert the Council to their true intentions. On the bridge, the crew maintained calm efficiency while tension thrummed beneath the surface of every action. Departure vector approved by Station Control, reported Lieutenant Han. We're clear to proceed at minimum thrust. Jiwoo nodded. Proceed as planned. Maintain communication protocols. The massive human vessel edged away from the station, its engines glowing with the soft blue light of conventional fusion drives. For all appearances, the Thunderchild was simply beginning its journey home to report their historic first contact. Captain, Taiho called from the security station. We're detecting power spikes from multiple vessels. They're powering weapon systems. Jiwoo wasn't surprised. Their intelligence gathering had revealed too much about the Council's true nature. Time to implementation of departure plan. 3 minutes, Captain, Han replied. We need to clear the station's gravity well. We may not have 3 minutes, Jiwoo said quietly. She was right. Before the Thunderchild could reach the planned jump coordinates, 7 Council warships moved into blocking positions. Their sleek designs reflected the light of the nearby star, beautiful and deadly. The main communication screen activated without request. A Council military commander, skin the color of burnished bronze, with ridge-like features, stared at Jiwoo with cold determination. Surrender your vessel or be destroyed, demanded the Council flagship. You have violated containment protocols and accessed restricted information. Your vessel is now property of the Galactic Council. On the bridge, Jiwoo's expression hardened. She glanced at her crew, seeing the same resolve in their eyes that she felt. Humanity had spent too long preparing for this moment to surrender now. Tactical, deploy countermeasures. Engineering, bring the true drives online. But Captain, protested Communications Officer Junho Park, that will reveal. They already know we're dangerous, Junho. Now they'll learn why. Jiwoo turned back to the screen. This is Captain Park of the UES Thunderchild. We refuse your demand and remind you that unprovoked aggression violates your own charter's first principle. She cut the transmission before the commander could respond. Battle stations, all hands secure for combat maneuvers. Throughout the ship, warning lights flashed as crew members rushed to their emergency positions. The civilian science teams who had been the public face of their mission quickly gave way to military personnel emerging from what had appeared to be storage sections. The Thunderchild's outer hull sections retracted, revealing weapon ports that had been disguised as sensor arrays and maintenance hatches. Internal compartments reconfigured as walls slid away and equipment locked into combat positions. The ship's true nature emerged, Earth's first interstellar battleship, concealed within the shell of an exploration vessel. "They're firing," Han shouted. Energy beams from 3 Council ships converged on the Thunderchild. The expected explosion didn't come. "Shield modifications holding at 82%, reported Du Hyun from engineering. "The reactive dispersal is working perfectly, Captain." They don't understand why their weapons aren't having full effect. The Council vessels attacked with synchronized precision, their formations textbook perfect. But their standardized tactics were predictable, exactly what Earth's strategists had anticipated when designing the Thunderchild's combat systems. "They're maintaining fixed positions relative to each other," observed Han. "Classic encirclement pattern." Jiwu allowed herself a small smile. "Then let's show them why that's a mistake against us. Helm, execute maneuver theta." The Thunderchild suddenly rotated on its axis and accelerated in a direction no ship its size should have been able to move. The gravity manipulation drive, humanity's greatest technological achievement, allowed the vessel to essentially fall in any direction, ignoring conventional physics. The sudden maneuver caught 2 Council ships off guard. They fired again, but hit only empty space where the Thunderchild had been moments before. "Return fire, targeting propulsion systems only," Jiwu ordered. The Thunderchild's main batteries fired, not energy weapons like the Council ships used, but hyper-accelerated projectiles that moved at a significant fraction of light speed. The kinetic impact hammered into 1 Council vessel, spinning it out of formation. "Direct hit," reported Han. "Their drive section is compromised." "They're adjusting formation," Taiho warned. 3 more ships joining from the station. Jiwu grimaced. Despite the Thunderchild's advanced technology, they couldn't fight the entire Council fleet. They needed to break through and jump to safety. "Captain," Joon-ho called urgently, "we're receiving a transmission on a non-standard frequency. It's not from the Council forces." "Source: a small ship near the outer edge of the battle zone. They're identifying themselves as Narration observers." Jiwu remembered the Narration from the Council meetings, a quiet species that had seemed uncomfortable with the proceedings. "Put it through to my station only." A soft voice came through her earpiece. "Human vessel, this is Emissary Tan. We have watched your kind for generations. The Council fears what they do not understand. We have transmitted tactical data about Council shield weaknesses to your computer. Use it wisely. Not all in the galaxy agree with the Council's methods." The transmission cut off as suddenly as it had begun. Jiwu checked her screen. Detailed schematics of Council warship vulnerabilities had indeed been transmitted. "Athena, analyze this data for authenticity," she ordered. The ship's AI responded instantly. "Analysis complete. Data appears genuine. Council vessels have systematic weaknesses at shield junction points. Targeting solutions updated." Jiwu didn't hesitate. "Upload targeting solutions to all weapon systems." The Thunderchild took another hit, this one powerful enough to shake the entire ship. "Shields at 64%, Du Hyun reported. "We can't take much more of this, Captain." "We won't have to," Jiwu replied. "Fire all batteries, pattern Gamma." The Thunderchild's weapons fired in perfect sequence, each shot targeting the precise weak points identified by the Narration data. 2 Council ships immediately lost power, their shields collapsing completely. A third spun away, venting atmosphere. But the remaining vessels closed in, recognizing the threat the human ship now posed. "Jump drive status," Jiwu demanded. 93%, Han replied. "We need at least 95 for a safe jump. Time to reach 95. 40 seconds if we divert all non-essential power." Jiwu made her decision. "Do it. Tactical, prepare 1 final barrage. All batteries, maximum yield." The lights on the bridge dimmed as power flowed to the jump drive. The Thunderchild shuddered under another impact. "Shields at 41%, Du Hyun warned. "Fire everything we have," Jiwu ordered. Clear us a path out of here. The Thunderchild unleashed its full arsenal, targeting the weakest ship directly in their escape path. The Council vessel's shields failed catastrophically, and it veered away to avoid destruction. Path clear, Han shouted. Jump drive at 95%. All hands, prepare for emergency jump. Ji-Woo ordered as the Thunderchild's batteries fired one last time, creating an opening in the enemy formation. The familiar hum of the jump drive built to a crescendo as the Thunderchild accelerated toward freedom. Behind them, the remaining Council ships tried to close the gap, but they were too late. Jump in 3, 2, 1. Reality twisted around the Thunderchild as it tore a hole through space itself, escaping into the safety of hyperspace. The Council ships vanished from their sensors, replaced by the swirling colors of faster-than-light travel. On the bridge, the crew maintained tense silence until Han confirmed what they all hoped. No pursuit signatures detected, Captain. We've made a clean escape. Ji-Woo exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of command press heavily on her shoulders. Begin damage assessment, and plot a course for the coordinates provided by the Narration. The Narration? Jun-Ho questioned. But we don't know if we can trust them. They saved us today, Ji-Woo replied. And we need allies if humanity is going to survive what's coming. The Council won't forgive this. They'll come for Earth next. The Thunderchild raced through hyperspace, battered but unbroken. The first battle between humanity and the Galactic Council was over. The war was just beginning. The trading station Nexus Prime erupted in chaos as the damaged Thunderchild docked, bringing news of Council treachery. The massive human ship limped into the docking bay, scorch marks visible across its hull. Emergency repair drones swarmed around damaged sections while the station's neutral security forces maintained an uneasy perimeter. Inside the station's main concourse, beings from dozens of species stopped their activities to stare at the human delegation as they were escorted to the station's administrative section. Many had never seen humans before, but rumors of the battle with Council forces had spread quickly through interstellar communications networks. Captain Ji-Woo moved with purpose despite her exhaustion. The escape from Council space had pushed both her crew and her ship to their limits. 3 days of emergency repairs in deep space had made the Thunderchild barely spaceworthy enough to reach Nexus Prime, a trading hub known for its neutrality in galactic politics. The station administrator will see you now, said their escort, a tall being with 4 arms and iridescent skin. Ji-Woo nodded to her team. Intelligence Officer Sung-min, Communications Officer Jun-Ho, and Security Chief Tai-Ho. They had prepared for this moment during their journey to the station, organizing the evidence they had gathered about the Council's true nature. Administrator Vex was a being of indeterminate gender, with skin like polished obsidian and eyes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Captain Park, the administrator said, your arrival has caused quite a stir. The Council has already demanded your immediate surrender. We request asylum under the Neutral Worlds Charter, Ji-Woo replied formally. And we request an emergency gathering of independent species representatives. What we have discovered affects all free worlds. Vex studied her carefully. That is an unusual request. What could possibly warrant such an assembly? Genocide, Ji-Woo said simply, on a galactic scale. 2 hours later, representatives from 14 non-council species gathered in the station's largest conference chamber. Security protocols were at maximum, with all recording devices banned and personal shields checked at the door. Sung-min stood before the assembled aliens, his hand steady as he operated the holographic display. They've eliminated 17 species in the past millennium, he explained to the gathered representatives. We have the evidence. The hologram showed star systems, dates, and species designations, all extracted from the Council's own archives during their infiltration. The pattern is clear, Sung-min continued. Any species that develops too quickly, shows unusual adaptability, or creates military technology that could challenge Council supremacy is targeted for containment. A being with crystalline features spoke up. "These are serious accusations. Why should we believe you? Newcomers to galactic society." Some men nodded respectfully. "Because we're not the only victims." He displayed another set of records. "These are the quarantine protocols currently active on 73 worlds. Many of your own colony worlds are listed here. Planets you believe were rendered uninhabitable by natural disasters." The room erupted in shocked conversations. Meanwhile, on Earth, Defense Coordinator Sejun Lee reviewed the data transmitted by the Thunderchild before its emergency jump. The United Earth Council had convened in their underground chamber beneath the former United Nations building in New York. Military leaders, scientists, and political representatives from all regions of Earth sat in tense silence as Sejun presented his findings. "Our isolation was a blessing," he told the United Earth Council, gesturing to the tactical displays showing Council military capabilities. "While they grew complacent with their technology, we evolved through competition and adaptation." Admiral Kang, commander of Earth's small but advanced fleet, leaned forward. "How much time do we have?" "Unknown," Sejun admitted. "But the Thunderchild's escape will have forced their hand. We must accelerate the deployment of our defensive grid and bring the Luna shipyards to full production." President Choi nodded grimly. "The breakthrough that allowed us to detect their quarantine field wasn't supposed to happen for decades according to their models. Our entire technological development has outpaced their predictions. They won't underestimate us again. Then we make sure the next time they face us," Admiral Kang said firmly, "they face not just the Thunderchild, but the full strength of humanity." Back on Nexus Prime, alien species began approaching Junho with messages of support as he made his way through the station's crowded markets. The communications officer had been sent to gauge public reaction, while the captain continued formal discussions. A small furry being with 6 eyes and delicate hands caught his attention. "Human," it called softly. "A moment of your time." Junho paused, alert but curious. "I am Tikna, last recorded historian of the Volteri," the being said. "The Volteri were nearly wiped out for developing independent FTL," the representative explained, voice barely above a whisper. "We've waited generations for someone to challenge the council." "You survived their purge?" Junho asked, surprised. Tikna made a sound like soft chimes. A laugh, Junho realized. "A few thousand of us, hidden on remote worlds, posing as members of other species. The council believes us extinct." The being glanced around nervously. "There are others like us. Survivors. We've been watching, waiting. Your people may be the catalyst we've needed." Throughout the day, similar encounters occurred. Species who had suffered under council rule sought out the humans, offering information, resources, even weapons technology. Most importantly, they offered their knowledge of council weaknesses. In the station's secure communication center, Ji Woo received a priority transmission from Earth. President Choi's image appeared, her expression resolute. "Captain Park, your mission parameters have been updated. You are no longer to return directly to Earth. Instead, you will continue gathering allies and intelligence. Earth is preparing for what may come, but we need time." "Understood, Madam President," Ji Woo replied. "We've already made significant contacts here. There's growing sentiment against the Council." "Good. We've activated the reserve fleet. Admiral Kang will rendezvous with you at coordinates being transmitted now. The Thunderchild won't stand alone much longer." Council leadership, faced with unprecedented resistance, fragmented over strategy. The emergency session on their central world had devolved into factional arguments, with species taking sides based on their own interests and fears. "The humans must be contained immediately," insisted High Counselor Ilara. "Their technology is advancing too rapidly. We've seen this pattern before." Counselor Trell disagreed. "A direct assault on their homeworld would require resources we cannot spare from border defense. The humans are not the only threat we face. They attacked our peacekeeping vessels," another counselor shouted. "After we surrounded them, and demanded surrender. Trell countered. Their response was predictable. The Council's military director, a battle-scarred veteran of many containment operations, stepped forward. The situation has grown beyond simple containment. The humans have reached Nexus Prime. They're sharing what they've learned about us. Other species are listening. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. You're saying the damage is done, Ilara stated flatly. I'm saying their worst fear was being realized. An adaptable, militarily capable species had joined the galactic community and was exposing their secrets. Ilara stared at the tactical display, where the human home system glowed like an accusation. Then we have no choice. Prepare the extinction fleet. Several counselors gasped. The extinction fleet had only been deployed twice in the Council's long history. Both times, entire species had vanished from the galaxy. Trell rose, formal protest robes flowing around his scaled form. I cannot support this action. The humans defended themselves against our aggression. They sought knowledge, not conquest. Your objection is noted, Counselor, Ilara said coldly. But the decision has been made. The humans represent an existential threat to galactic stability. They will be eliminated. As the Council chamber emptied, Trell remained, staring at the display. With a furtive movement, he activated his personal communicator, encoding a message on a frequency unknown to most Council members. This is Trell. The extinction fleet has been authorized against Earth. Alert our allies. The Great Deception ends now. Across the galaxy, hidden transmitters activated, carrying his warning to species long thought extinct or subjugated, species that had been quietly waiting for this moment. A resistance that had existed in shadow for centuries was about to emerge into the light, and humanity, unknowing, had sparked the flame. 6 months later, Earth's small but formidable fleet assembled near the former quarantine boundary. The darkness of space was broken by the glow of engines as 27 human warships took formation. Alongside them flew ships from 12 formerly subjugated species, vessels of strange and beautiful designs that until recently had hidden in remote corners of the galaxy. The restored and upgraded Thunderchild led the formation, with Captain Jiwoo commanding from the bridge. The ship bore little resemblance to the vessel that had limped into Nexus Prime half a year earlier. Its hull gleamed with new armor plating, and enhanced weapon systems extended from reinforced mounts. Most importantly, the ship no longer hid its true nature. The Thunderchild now proudly displayed the emblems of both Earth and the newly formed alliance of free worlds. Jiwoo stood at the center of the bridge, her uniform crisp despite the long hours of preparation. Around her, the crew worked with quiet efficiency, each person aware of the historic moment they were about to face. Status report, Jiwoo ordered. All ships in position, replied Han from the tactical station. Alliance vessels confirm ready status. Jiwoo nodded. For 6 months, they had prepared for this day. Earth had accelerated its shipbuilding programs, while Alliance engineers shared technologies the Council had suppressed for centuries. Together, they had created a force that could stand against the extinction fleet, the Council's most terrible weapon. Any word from our intelligence sources? Jiwoo asked. Some men looked up from his station. Counselor Trell's network confirms the Council fleet has departed their staging area. They believe Earth is still unaware of their approach. A small smile touched Jiwoo's lips. The defection of Counselor Trell had been unexpected, but welcome. His centuries of secretly gathering allies among oppressed species had provided the Alliance with invaluable intelligence. The Council fleet approaches, Han reported suddenly. Detecting multiple jump signatures. Count exceeds 100 vessels. The bridge fell silent as the tactical display filled with enemy ships. The Council had committed its full strength to this operation, just as their intelligence sources had predicted. They still think they're launching a surprise attack, Du-hyun observed from his engineering station. Let's not disappoint them, Jiwoo replied. Signal all ships. Execute Operation Phoenix. Throughout the fleet, cloaked vessels that had remained hidden activated their systems. The Alliance force suddenly doubled in size as ships materialized from what had appeared to be empty space. The Council fleet, expecting to find a single planet with minimal defenses, instead faced a prepared armada. "Open a channel," Jiwoo ordered. When the connection established, she stood straight, her voice clear and unwavering. "This is Captain Jiwoo Park of Earth. We do not seek war, but neither will we accept tyranny. The era of Council suppression ends today." The main screen showed the commander of the Council fleet, the same bronze-skinned alien who had demanded the Thunderchild's surrender months ago. "This is Fleet Commander Varys. Your resistance is futile. The Council has preserved galactic peace for 50,000 years. We will not allow chaotic elements to destabilize what we have built." "Peace built on genocide is no peace at all," Jiwoo replied. "We know what the extinction fleet has done. Every species in our alliance has suffered under your preservation of peace." The commander's features hardened. "Then you leave us no choice." The transmission cut off abruptly. Moments later, the Council fleet began to advance. "They're forming attack patterns," Han reported. Jiwoo nodded. "Signal all ships, defensive positions. Remember, our goal is not destruction but demonstration." The battle that followed would later be recorded in the histories of a dozen worlds as the Day of Revelation. The Council forces attacked with overwhelming firepower, expecting to crush the resistance quickly. Instead, they found themselves facing tactics and technologies they had never encountered. Alliance ships moved in seemingly impossible patterns, their hulls absorbing energy that should have destroyed them. Return fire targeted propulsion and weapons systems with surgical precision, disabling rather than destroying enemy vessels. On the bridge of the Thunderchild, Jiwoo coordinated the Alliance response. Group 3, execute flanking maneuver. Volturi ships, begin electronic warfare sequence. The battle raged for hours. Council ships, designed to fight enemies who followed predictable patterns, struggled against the combined tactics of 13 different species, each bringing their unique strengths to the fight. "They're pulling back," Han announced finally, regrouping at the edge of the system. "Status report," Jiwoo demanded. "We've lost 7 ships," some men reported solemnly. Council losses: 28 vessels destroyed, 43 disabled. Jiwoo closed her eyes briefly, feeling the weight of those losses. When she opened them again, determination filled her gaze. "Prepare the transmission package. It's time for Phase 2. While the Council fleet regrouped, every communication system in the galaxy received the same message. Detailed evidence of the Council's millennia of suppression, genetic tampering, and genocide. Historical records, testimony from survivors, and proof of ongoing containment projects flooded the networks of every world. What followed wasn't the conquest the Council had feared, but something far more destabilizing. A new alliance offering protection and partnership to any peaceful species. Planet after planet declared independence from Council rule. Species long believed extinct revealed their survival. The carefully maintained structure of control collapsed not through military defeat, but through the simple power of truth. "They're hailing us again," Junho reported. The face that appeared on the screen was not Commander Varys, but Counselor Ilara. Her wooden features showed no emotion, but her voice carried a note of desperation. "This madness must end. You cannot understand the forces you are unleashing. Without the Council's guidance, the galaxy will fall into chaos." Jiwoo met her gaze steadily. "Perhaps, or perhaps we'll build something better together. The choice we offer is simple. Join us as equals, or withdraw to your core worlds. The era of control through fear is over." 3 days later, the remnants of the Council fleet departed. Not in victory or defeat, but in reluctant recognition of a changed galaxy. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology, but their ability to unite diverse civilizations under common cause. Earth had not conquered the galaxy through force, but had instead awakened it to possibility. 1 year later, Jiwoo stood in the newly formed Galactic Assembly, where representatives from 40 species now gathered as equals. The great chamber, built on the neutral world of Nexus Prime, hummed with the voices of beings who only months before had been enemies or strangers. Ji-woo, now appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the Assembly, watched as former council species sat alongside those they had once suppressed. The transition had not been easy. Centuries of fear and distrust could not be erased overnight. But step by step, a new order was emerging. "Quite a view, isn't it?" Councillor Trull said, approaching her viewing platform. Ji-woo nodded. "I never imagined this when we first met." Few did. That was the problem. Trull's scales rippled with color. The council spent so long preventing change that they forgot its value. Below them, representatives debated trade agreements, scientific cooperation, and security protocols. The discussions were sometimes heated, occasionally chaotic, but fundamentally different from the rigid control of the old council. Humanity wasn't the nightmare the council feared. Ji-woo reflected as she watched former enemies working together. Their real nightmare was facing their own history and the possibility of change. Trull made a sound that Ji-woo had learned was laughter. "And yet, they were right to fear you, in their way. No species in my long memory has ever catalyzed change so quickly." Ji-woo smiled. "We had help." Beyond the assembly station's windows, the Thunderchild patrolled alongside ships of various designs, not as conquerors, but as guardians of a fragile, newborn peace. The ship that had begun its journey as a disguised explorer, revealed as a battleship, now served as a symbol of something entirely different. The possibility that diversity could be a strength rather than a threat. As the assembly session ended, Ji-woo returned to her ship. The bridge welcomed her with familiar sounds and faces. "Where to next, Ambassador?" asked Han from his station. Ji-woo looked at the star map, where new regions of space were being explored by joint missions of multiple species. Worlds long quarantined were being rediscovered. Civilizations thought lost were rejoining galactic society. "Everywhere," she said simply. "We've only just begun." The end.